Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw, here with another blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to discuss how the police recently seized a Bitcoin wallet valued at hundreds of millions of dollars that's associated with the Hydra Darknet Market, but despite the seizure, police still need the password to the wallet, and the wallet's proprietor refuses to give it up. But before we dive in, please, if you like this content, give us a thumbs up and then subscribe to our channel. And that said, let's jump right on in. Alright, so this is an interesting one. As we can see here, Darknet Live reports, Hydra. Police still need the password to a seized Bitcoin wallet. They say, the owner of a cryptocurrency wallet associated with Hydra Market refuses to provide police with the password, preventing investigators from establishing the wallet's value. And here's some screen captures. Says apparently Pavlov apparently gave the police the wallet but not the password, which is kind of funny because if you get a court-ordered subpoena for seizure of the wallet, you can give them the wallet, but that's no good if you don't actually have the password to unlock the thing. So continuing on, it says, according to MASH, a popular Telegram channel for news-related content, a court-ordered seizure of a cryptocurrency wallet owned by the alleged co-founder of Hydra Market, Dmitry Pavlov. Pavlov will not provide the police with the password needed to access the wallet's contents. The alleged co-founder. Pavlov's alleged role in the administration of Hydra remains undetermined. The United States Department of Justice indicted Pavlov in April 2022 for conspiracy to distribute narcotics and conspiracy to launder money, quote, in connection with his operation and administration of the servers used to run Hydra. Statements from U.S. authorities have indicated that Pavlov provided support to the market's administrators by hosting the servers used by the marketplace. Quote, starting in or about November 2015, Pavlov is alleged to have operated a company, Promservice Limited, also known as All-Wheel Drive and 4x4 Host RU, that administered Hydra's servers, Promservice. During that time, Pavlov, through his company Promservice, administered Hydra's servers, which allowed the market to operate as a platform used by thousands of drug dealers and other unlawful vendors to distribute large quantities of illegal drugs and other illicit goods and services to thousands of buyers, and to launder billions of dollars derived from these unlawful transactions. As an active administrator in hosting Hydra's servers, Pavlov allegedly conspired with the other operators of Hydra to further the site's success by providing the critical infrastructure that allowed Hydra to operate and thrive in a competitive darknet market environment. In doing so, Pavlov is alleged to have facilitated Hydra's activities and allowed Hydra to reap commissions worth millions of dollars generated from the illicit sales conducted through the site. News reports refer to Pavlov as the co-administrator of Hydra Market, despite the U.S. government's reports accusing Pavlov of being assistant to the co-administrator. Hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin. Per the report from MASH, investigators believe the wallet contains, quote, hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoins. Taking into account the turnover of the Darknet and the percentage which the stores paid to the administrators, the wallet may be quite rich. The exact amount cannot be established yet. Pavlov refuses to give access. And here we see a screenshot of the Hydra marketplace in its heyday. At least $5.2 billion worth of cryptocurrency has passed through Hydra's wallets since 2016. Seized servers. The investigation into Pavlov is likely related to the seizure of servers used by Hydra Market in Germany. In April 2022, Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office, or the BKA, seized servers allegedly used by Hydra Market. They also confiscated bitcoins worth $25.186 million, or 23 million euros. According to the announcement, the seized bitcoins are, quote, attributed to the market. And here is a copy of the seizure page that was hosted up by the German BKA authority. German law enforcement announced that Hydra's, quote, previously unknown operators and administrators are under investigation for operating a criminal platform on the internet, enabling the trade of illegal narcotics and money laundering. However, at the time, a spokesperson for the Central Office for Combating Internet Crime, or ZIT, of the Frankfurt Public Prosecutor's Office said that investigators had not yet identified any suspects in the case. U.S. sanctions. After the BKA's server seizure, the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, pointlessly sanctioned Hydra Market. Quote, the global threat of cybercrime and ransomware that originates in Russia and the ability of criminal leaders to operate there with impunity is deeply concerning to the United States, said the Secretary of Treasury Janet L. Yellen. Our actions are to send a message today to criminals that you cannot hide on the Darknet or their forums, and you cannot hide in Russia or anywhere else in the world. In coordination with allies and partners like Germany and Estonia, we will continue to disrupt these networks. Government officials and Twitter users called for endless sanctions against Russia around the time the Treasury sanctioned Hydra, which could offer a plausible explanation for the sanctions' purpose. At the same time, the Department of Justice indicted Pavlov for his role, quote, as an active administrator in hosting Hydra servers. If he is interacting with Russian investigators in some way, Pavlov likely resides in Russia. As long as he stays in Russia, he will not need to worry about spending time in U.S. prison. The U.S. only manages to ensnare Russians after they cross a border into a state that functions as a U.S. proxy. In those cases, the U.S. issues an international arrest warrant or orders that another country's law enforcement agencies arrest the victim. Since the U.S. announced Pavlov's indictment without having him in their possession, I suspect they do not expect to prosecute him on U.S. soil. Chrono Pay. On March 10th, Russian law enforcement arrested the founder of the payment service company Chrono Pay, Pavlov Vrubletsky. Vrubletsky and three co-conspirators allegedly defrauded hundreds of thousands of people through forms of fraud. Vrubletsky allegedly created the shitcoin Inferno Pay. According to a report from the media outlet Kommersant, Vrubletsky allegedly, quote, provided cash-out services to Hydra. His fraud charges are unrelated to the alleged connection to Hydra. I have not been able to find any updates about the Vrubletsky case. All right, so that was a pretty interesting story. A couple interesting points. I think first and foremost, it's the fact that we have this seizure that was linked to the German seizure of the servers. So apparently they actually got access to a wallet, but don't either have a password to unlock it to give access to the private keys to sign off on these transactions, or they don't actually have access to the seed phrases needed to access the keys to unlock that wallet. So, it's one of those old things, not your keys, not your coins. I mean, you could have access to even something like a hardware device, like a ledger, and if you either don't have access to the PIN to unlock the ledger in order to utilize the keys that are stored on the ledger, then good luck. The same thing, if you want to restore a ledger from nothing or a trezor, then you need the seed phrase in order to unlock the private keys that are stored on that wallet. So it's that age-old adage in crypto, not your keys, not your coins. And, I can't commend this alleged wrongdoer's actions, but at least his OPSEC, I can commend that. The fact that he knew enough to keep his passphrase, his key secure. And, it's one of those things. It's, we saw it with the BitMEX hacking case. I don't know if it was BitMEX or Bitfinex, that crazy rapper girl and her boyfriend, and they had billions in Bitcoin, but then the DOJ was able to decrypt their private keys. They were stored in like a text file on some cloud storage server. And so the DOJ was able, or was the FBI, it was one of the three-letter agencies, which I guess they're both part of the Department of Justice, but they were able to hack into that text file that contained the private keys. And so, you just got to be very careful with how you store your keys. I guess that's the lesson to be learned from that. Next up would be the point about extradition, right? And so I remember when it came out that Do Kwon, this was before the Terra Luna meltdown, but this is back when Do Kwon was under investigation and he was facing a lawsuit by the SEC for it wasn't mirror, it was the synthetics that he was trading. I forgot the name of it. It was they had stock tokens. They were tokenized versions of stocks that you could trade on the Terra blockchain, and he was behind that, and he was under investigation. And I think he was being sued by the SEC, and then Do Kwon actually sued them back. And people were debating about the seriousness of the lawsuit, and I said, I came out and said point blank, I mean, if this rises enough to the point where, I mean, there's criminal charges that could be brought, or if he poses enough of a threat to the establishment that they elevate the seriousness of these charges, he could get extradited. It doesn't matter how safe he thinks he is in Singapore or Korea or wherever he was hiding at that time. There are extradition treaties that certain nations in the traditionally Western world, and the tentacles extend even somewhat far beyond the Western world, but a lot of these more developed nations have these treaties with the United States where the United States could issue a warrant, an international warrant, as they were talking about in this article, and then get these foreign governments to arrest a defendant or the accused, and then have them extradite to the United States and then face trial and face their charges here. But as we all know, I mean, Russia and the United States aren't on the best terms now, and so it's the same sort of thing like with Edward Snowden hiding out in Russia, or even this alleged wrongdoer, Pavlov, whatever his name was. It's good luck getting the Russians to extradite someone to the United States. I mean, I think that they would just keep them there to spite the United States at this point. And so, I mean, if you not advice or anything, but just be aware. I mean, for any of those that are considering doing any alleged wrongdoings or nefarious acts, check your extradition treaties before you settle down anywhere, and make sure you pick some place that really isn't too cozy with the Five Eyes of the United States. Because if we know one thing about the long arm of Johnny Law, it extends far out, and it will find you, and it will get you, and it will bring you back here to pay the piper, so to speak. And then the next thing I noticed was that the sanctions that Janet Yellen imposed on this Russian market and some of these individuals, and that seemed like a whole bunch of BS, just kind of kowtowing into the line of, I guess it was in vogue at that moment in time. What was this, about April, maybe early April or March, right after the invasion of Ukraine? Everybody and their mother was canceling Russia and sanctioning Russia, and withdrawing their stores from Russia, so on and so forth, just kind of towing the party line. And so, as they noted in this article, I mean, those sanctions that they levied on didn't really have any teeth to them. They just kind of did them more so for show. And I think, I mean, whatever, man, you do you, Yellen, but I mean, come on, if you're gonna act, at least have some bite to it. That's just my opinion with that. Let's not just kind of parade around here just for show. Let's waste your time on things that actually have bite and actually have meaning. God forbid we demand some sort of actionable consequence from our politicians rather than just a show. And then the last point I noticed was that, it's surprising to me that in this day and age, we don't see as many, I guess, people that are engaging in illegal or criminal activity using Monero. And I brought up a connection before to things like the Colonial Pipeline hack, and how those alleged hackers demanded a ransom in Bitcoin, and supposedly they were tracked down in like less than a month because of the fact that they used Bitcoin, which is a public immutable ledger. So all of the transactions are publicly visible to everyone for all of recorded history since the inception of the blockchain. And so, I mean, when you have the ability to use something like Monero, and it still, to our knowledge, has not been cracked by the three-letter agencies, I just don't see why you wouldn't use Monero. But, I mean, maybe they know better than me. I know it's probably easier to get in and get out and do your on and off ramp with something like Bitcoin. There's certainly a lot more liquidity. But, I mean, if you really know what you're doing, you could get in and you could swap around and you could play some games And still, I mean, Monero probably it won't hold its value as strongly as Bitcoin. It'll take more volatile moves, but still, I mean, there's something to be said for actually having that privacy that you have in Monero. I think now Monero is trading at what, like $197. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. You know, it'll take bigger swings than something like Bitcoin, but I think that there's still a fair amount of utility in Monero. And so I'm surprised that people aren't really using that or Zcash as much, but I foresee it's going to become a more prominent talking point in the future as we see more and more of this type of activity. And these articles are going to start mentioning that police are hitting dead ends and investigators are hitting dead ends due to the fact that the accused are using chains like Monero. And I really think that even if, let's say, the FBI or the DOJ or the NSA or one of the other three-letter agencies end up cracking Monero, I don't think that they're going to be so quick to put that information out there. I think that they're going to honeypot people for a while. You know, I think there's probably going to be at least a year, maybe 2 years lag before we learn that Monero was cracked after the fact that it actually was. So let's say the DOJ or something, they crack Monero in January of 2022. I mean, they'll probably honeypot people for another 2 years, and we won't learn about that until 2024. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's just one of those tactics that these agencies use. And so I think this was an interesting story. There were certainly a few lessons to be learned from this for those that are, you know, unaware or uninitiated. But interesting nonetheless to see kind of the state of what's going on with the whole cops and robbers sort of game playing out in the Darknet market land and in the depths of the cryptoverse. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And with that said, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.